the New Westminster Indian Band, number 566. We are on the land of the Coast Salish people, which stretches from Bella Coola, BC, down through Washington as far as Seattle. Today we are on the traditional territory of the Kakite First Nation. On behalf of my ancestors, I raise my hands in welcome. Kakite in our language means resting place. We are often referred to as the river people, as our village was on the banks of the Fraser near the Patello Bridge. The river was shared by many, many villages all the way up to Yale. During the summer months, as many as 2,000 to 3,000 people would meet in this area for fishing, berry picking, hunting, and socializing. Many marriages resulted from these gatherings, and we are closely connected by these familial ties. I have so many relatives. As our people dwindled down from 400 strong as a result of a smallpox epidemic, and then our land was taken away, I am very proud that we are still here. As descendants of the Kakite village, we have the responsibility to honor and to carry on the legacy of our ancestors. The future is in the hands of our children and our grandchildren, environmentally, economically, artistically, and socially. We are happily now applauding the rising numbers of Indigenous graduates in all levels of education. Today, we are gathered here for an important announcement. And since I speak first, I can't say what it is. And I give my heartfelt thanks and appreciation to Member of Parliament, Peter Julian, for always honoring and respecting our culture. As an advocate representing the people in the community of New Westminster, he also pokes his nose into many communities in the whole country. If you need help, he is there. The pleasure of getting a tour of his workplace in Ottawa was very special to me. Thank you again, Peter. Creator, we are all here with a clear mind and a good heart. Please bless us all. Please keep us safe from harm and let us enjoy good health for many, many years. And grandmothers and grandfathers, thank you for your wise teachings that we should always love, honor, and respect every living thing. Haitkusiem, thank you.
Bonjour, mes amis.
Bienvenue tout le monde à cet événement formidable.
Welcome everyone to this wonderful event.
Je m'appelle Raj Chauhan,
My name is Rod Chosan,
Deputy Provincial du Burnaby Edmonds.
the Member of Parliament for Burnaby.
Et je m'appelle Anne Kang, députée provinciale de Burnaby-Deer Lake.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you so much.
Hey, Raj, where are we here exactly?
This is this is a Canadian motion picture park outdoor studio that has been used in many, many Hollywood films.
Oh, wow, that is so cool. We know how important the film industry is important here in Burnaby.
That's right. The film industry employs more than 20,000 people in Greater Vancouver.
Speaking of Burnaby, the talk of the town right now is about a very specific individual.
Yes, everyone is talking about how amazing it would be for Jagmeet to run in Burnaby.
Tout le monde dit à quel point Jagmeet Singh serait
Everyone
une
is
voix
saying
forte
that
pour ces
Jagmeet Singh
communautés.
would be a strong voice for this community.
Jagmeet was here last month and he met with a ton of people, including healthcare workers, young people.
Oh, and me.
Really?
Yeah.
What did you tell him?
Well, I told him how impressed I was with him, speaking up and fighting for a fair economy, better healthcare, and a clean environment.
You know, Anne, I met with him too.
You did?
Yes. And I told him that he would be the best representative in Burnaby to represent us in Canada because he really understands people.
Well, Jagmeet spent his childhood in St. John, Newfoundland, and his adolescence in Windsor, Ontario. And since then, he has been traveling all across Canada, talking to people of all walks of life and listening to their concerns.
He has been an amazing leader. He has stood up to the federal government. He stands up for people. He knows what the issues are, and he knows what needs to be done to represent people from coast to coast to coast.
Et le prochain Premier ministre du
And
Canada.
he
So
will be the next Prime
please
Minister of
welcome
Canada.
the national leader of the NDP,
Jagmeet Singh.
That was awesome. That was so good. That was so good. Woo! Thank you, thank you. NDP. Thank you, thank you, thank you. First of all, we got to give it up to Raj and Ann. That was incredible. Let's give them some love. I love that. That was so awesome. Thank you, thank you. And thank you very much to Chief Larrabee for the acknowledgement, for the land recognition, coming from the Kakait peoples. Thank you. Let's give a round of applause to Chief Larrabee as well. Thank you. Thank you for all of you to being here today. I know it's a beautiful day, but it can be tough in the hot sun. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your time with us. I got to give a special shout out to Kennedy Stewart, who's worked so hard in this riding. Thank you, Kennedy. Thank you. And I want to thank all of our incredible NDP MPs who are here today. They all work so hard. Let's give them some love. Thank you, thank you. It's important to acknowledge when you've got a new Democratic MP, you've got someone in your corner who understands what you're going through, who's fighting for you. So let's give them some more love. Thank you. As I was walking through the crowd, I was kind of chatting with folks and listening to what they had to say. And what I'm really struck by in Burnaby is this incredible amount of love and care for one another. People really care about their neighbors, want to take care of one another. It's true. And it reminded me of the last time I was here, and I was meeting with some folks and people in different sectors, and I was speaking with the pharmacist. And the pharmacist was telling me, she was telling me about her day and her work, and she was telling me about the most stressful part of her work, the stressful part of her day. And I thought, as a pharmacist working at the local Burnaby hospital, her stress would be dealing with horrible illnesses and having to treat patients. And she said, no. The most stressful part of her day is when she discharges a patient. And I was confused because I thought when you discharge a patient, they're healthy. They've gotten better. Why would it be the most stressful part of her day? And she said it was the most stressful part of her day because when she discharged patients, when they left the hospital, she knew that many times they wouldn't have the means to afford the medication they needed. And that meant that they would actually get more and more ill, and they would end up coming back to the hospital. And it broke her heart. And it breaks my heart that that's her stress, that she's worried about people who can't afford the medication they need. The reality is millions of Canadians don't have access to medication when they need it. It breaks my heart. You know, it's here in this riding that Tommy Douglas won here in Burnaby. And when he won, his dream was to take universal Medicare across Canada. And he did that. He did that. But his dream was left unfinished. Tommy a été élu ici par les gens de
When he was
Burnaby
elected here by the
et
people of
pour
Burnaby
apporter les soins de santé à
to
tout l'ensemble
bring
de la
healthcare
population canadienne.
to all the
Et elle l'a fait,
population of
mais son
Canada.
rêve a
And he did
resté
it.
inachevé.
But his
We're the
dream has
only
remained
country in the world
not
that
completely
has
realized.
universal health care, that doesn't have universal pharmacare. We're the only ones. And what are the Liberals proposing? They're proposing yet another study. That's their solution. When we've already seen study after study has clearly shown that people would benefit from a universal pharmacare plan. They would. We've already seen that we would save $4.2 billion if we actually had a universal pharmacare plan. Now imagine what we could do. Imagine what we could do with $4.2 billion annually, invested into frontline healthcare providers, invested into shortening the wait times for surgical procedures, invested into long-term healthcare beds, build the hospital that we need so badly here in Burnaby. So what are the Liberals saying? They're telling us to wait. I'm here to say the people of Burnaby can't wait. Canadians can't wait. That's right. Now another big issue, an issue that comes up every time I tour across Canada, every time I'm in any community, whether it's in Atlantic provinces, whether it's in the prairies, whether it's in the West Coast, the number one or one of the major issues that keeps on coming up again and again is housing. We're in a housing crisis, and it's a national crisis. People are struggling to be able to find a place to call home. Something as basic and as simple as just being able to have that place that you call home is something that's unachievable for far too many Canadians. You know, I'm sure people here in this crowd, you know someone here in Burnaby who's grown up in a neighborhood that can't afford to live in the neighborhood they grew up in. And that's just simply unacceptable. And what is the government proposing? Well, the federal government says, yes, we acknowledge that this is a housing crisis. But they're proposing a solution which has 90% of the funding, so the vast majority of the funding, it won't actually happen until 2 years from now. Now, I ask you a question. How many times in your life have you had something that you've called a crisis? You said, I've got this crisis, but hold on, let me wait 2 years before I do anything about it. I'm assuming that that never happens, that you never wait 2 years to deal with a crisis. So again, the Liberals are telling us to just wait when it comes to the housing crisis. I'm here to say the people of Burnaby can't wait. The Canadians can't wait. That's right. Now, just last week, we read some reports that said that 90 of the wealthiest families in Canada own the combined wealth of 3 entire provinces, everyone living in 3 provinces. Now, that just doesn't make any sense. That's policies, years and years of policy that have allowed inequality to grow to that extent. And when faced with the massive issue of this inequality, the Liberals know that there's massive tax loopholes, that there's offshore tax havens. And what's their solution to this? Nothing. They're not even talking about it. And we're missing out on the investment from those who can contribute, who can afford to contribute more. When they don't contribute to building up our society, we all lose out. It's a theft to all of us. And that means we don't have the resources to invest in things like public transit, to invest in publicly owned infrastructure, to invest in all the things we need, like that hospital here in Burnaby. And again, the Liberals, their solution, they're not touching offshore tax havens. They're allowing the $300 billion that we know are held in offshore tax havens to remain there, and they're not committed to doing anything. Again, they're effectively saying you need to wait. People need to wait. We're saying the Canadians are done waiting. We can't afford to wait. Quand les 80 familles les plus riches au Canada possèdent plus que la population de 3 provinces au Canada, c'est complètement inacceptable. C'est quelque chose qu'il faut régler.
This is something that we have to change.
So we can't afford to wait. New Democrats are determined, are committed to ensuring that people get the solutions they so urgently need right now. We need that right now. And it starts here. It starts today. And that's why I want you all to know that I intend to run in the upcoming by-election here in Burnaby South. Thank you. Thank you. I'm running because Trudeau betrayed people on electoral reform. When we need to have our voices represented in our government. I'm running because we can't afford to wait 2 years for a solution to the housing crisis. We need action now to build affordable housing, to invest in a solution for housing. I'm running because we don't need another study on pharmacare. We need our prescription medication covered now. That's right. I'm running because we don't need our government to invest public dollars, billions of public dollars in a 65-year-old leaky pipeline. We need our government to invest in clean energies for today and tomorrow, clean energy jobs. Je me présente parce que les libéraux ils n'ont pas fait ce que les gens voulaient. Je me présente parce que les libéraux ils n'ont pas fait ce que les gens voulaient. Et les conservateurs ne feront pas ce que les gens comme vous, ce qu'il faut faire pour les gens comme vous. I'm running in this election because the liberals haven't done what people need. They haven't done what people need to address the issues that we're facing. And the conservatives, they won't do what's necessary for people like you, for people like us. They won't do what's necessary. New Democrats are determined to make lives better for people. We're determined to fight for people's lives. New Democrats are pushing for more, are pushing for better, because we're determined to improve people's lives. We care about the issues that people are facing. And we dare to believe that this is not as good as it gets. This is not as good as it gets. We have the love and courage to ensure that we deliver on the solutions that Canadians need, that they can't afford to wait any longer for. So I ask you, are you ready? Are you ready? All right, because Canadians can't afford to wait any longer, because Burnaby can't afford to wait any longer. Let's get out and let's do this. Let's bring that change we know is possible. Let's do it together. All right. Thank you, thank you. Yes. Thank you. Woo. And a big thank you to my wife, who, without her, I wouldn't be able to do any of this. Thank you, good kid in. Yes, Don and Peter and Finn and Kennedy, come on up. Thank you, thank you. And now we'll take any questions that the media might have. We're ready to take any of your questions. We'll have a mic that's roving around, and we will take your questions. Yes, I will definitely answer that question, but we'll start with, make sure we wrap up the media. And I know people are all in the cold, or in the hot here.
So the most difficult in first will be in French.
Oui, je suis prêt.
Valérie Gamache de Radio-Canada. Parlez-moi de l'importance d'être élu à la Chambre des communes en cette année préélectorale.
Pour moi, c'est très important qu'on peut pousser le gouvernement fédéral. Parce qu'il y a beaucoup des enjeux qui touchent les gens. Et ce qu'on a vu, c'est que le gouvernement n'a pas fait ce qu'il faut faire. Donc, je veux pousser le gouvernement pour s'attaquer aux choses, comme j'ai dit, les échappatoires. Il faut pousser le gouvernement pour mettre en œuvre un système d'assurance des médicaments. Il faut régler la crise nationale de logement abordable. Donc, il y a beaucoup d'enjeux. On ne veut pas que le gouvernement utilise notre argent pour acheter une oléoduc ancienne. Au lieu de ça, on veut
old,
qu'on
pipeline,
investit
rather
dans
than
les énergies
investing that
propres
money in
pour
clean
créer des
energy
bons
to
jobs
create good
de
jobs
ce secteur. Donc, il y
in
a
that
beaucoup de
sector.
choses qu'il
So
faut
there are a
faire.
lot of
Et
things that need
je
to be
veux
done,
être là
and
pour
I
pousser
want
le
to be
gouvernement.
there in
Est-ce
order
que vous
to
pensez que ça va
push the
aider
government
la
to do those
popularité
things?
du
Do you
NPD que
think
vous
that,
siégez à la Chambre des communes lors de la
it is
prochaine session?
important for the NDP's
Plus que ça,
popularity
pour
that you have
moi,
a
ce
seat
n'est
in
pas
the
une
House of
question
Commons?
de la
Well, for me,
popularité,
it's
c'est une
not a
question
question
des
of
enjeux qui
popularity. It's
touchent
a
les peuples.
question of
C'est
the
un
issues
enjeu
affecting
de
people.
comment on peut aider les
It's
gens.
a
Et ça,
matter
c'est la
of
grande chose.
seeing how we can help people. That's the most important thing.
Guys, right. What's to stop you from running somewhere else in the general election, given the fact that your hometown is so far away?
I'm committed to Burnaby South. I'm all in on Burnaby. My wife and I talked about it, and we're going to run here.
So if you win, you'll move here and you're committed to here for the next however many years?
Absolutely.
My question was similar to that. You don't live in Burnaby. You're going to be focused on federal issues. How can you effectively represent the people of Burnaby South?
Well, a national leader needs to represent all Canadians across Canada. That's the job of a national leader.
But what about
But-
the people here and their specific issues?
Absolutely. And so those issues are very important. And those issues, we've talked about some of those issues. The issues that touch the people of Burnaby, the people of Burnaby South, are the issues that we've talked about. Housing. Housing is a massive issue. And pushing hard on these issues is what people want to see happen. We need to push the government because their plan to invest in housing 2 years from now doesn't make any sense when we know that's a housing crisis right now. We need to push on that. We know that healthcare and access to medications is a massive issue. We've talked about the hospital in Burnaby. We need to stop what the Liberals have done, which is to cut funding for healthcare by $36 billion over the next 10 years. The Liberals actually enacted a conservative plan. We need to push back against that. These are the issues that impact people here in Burnaby South, and I'm committed to fighting hard on those issues.
So just to be clear, if you win, you're moving to Burnaby.
Absolutely.
Mr. Singh, this is a riding that the NDP won narrowly in 2015. Mr. Stewart there has written in the Tyee about what a tough slog, what a challenge it was to win the riding so narrowly. What's your path to victory here, especially in a riding where the margins are so slim? And a follow-up after that.
Sure. So I ran for the first time ever in Brampton, and people told us that it couldn't be done. People said that you can't win in Brampton. It had never been NDP forever. And we focused in on people. We focused in on the issues that people are faced with. And we talked about what we can do as a party, what can we do as a representative to push the government to ensure that people see justice. And we're going to do that. We're going to talk about the issues that matter to people, and we're going to use that platform that I have as a leader to talk about housing, to talk about pharmacare, to talk about healthcare, to talk about the issues that matter, that we don't need to be investing billions of public dollars in a 65-year-old leaky pipeline. We need to be investing in clean energy jobs for today and tomorrow. These are the issues that we're going to continue to advance.
What makes this political risk necessary now? And have you thought about the damage to your leadership if you don't win?
I thought about the fact that Canadians can't afford to wait. Canadians can't afford to wait for action on housing. Canadians can't afford to wait for action on pharmacare, on healthcare. They can't afford to wait on a government that seems not to be committed to investing in the future, clean energy jobs and clean energy. We need to have action now, and we need to push this government to do the things that we need now.
Calgary Valley, Burnaby now.
I'll come back and chat with folks in a quick sec. I just want to make sure I wrap up with the media first. Okay. We'll chat for sure, yeah.
So the Prime Minister is under no obligation to call a by-election before the general election. Are you confident that that will happen?
Well, I'm confident that the people of Burnaby and the rest of the by-elections across Canada, they deserve to have representation. And it's up to the government to make sure that people have that representation. And it's all of your job to hold the government to account and make sure that they actually call those by-elections and make sure people have representation.
And if there isn't a by-election, will you still run in the general election here?
I've said I've committed to this riding, and I'm committed all the way.
Hi, Jagmeet. Taranum, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Punjabi ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਜਵਾਬ ਦੇ ਦਿਓ ਪਲੀਜ਼।
ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਜੀ।
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਵਰ ਕਰ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹੋ ਪਰ ਬਰਨਬੀ ਸਾਊਥ ਨੂੰ ਹੀ ਕਿਉਂ ਚੁਣਿਆ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਰਾਈਡਿੰਗ ਵਾਸਤੇ?
ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਇਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇੱਕਦਮ ਇੱਕ ਕਨੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਿ ਇੱਥੇ ਲੋਕੀ ਬੜੇ ਪ੍ਰੇਮੀ ਲੋਕੀ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਜੋ ਅਸੂਲ ਨੇ ਜੋ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਾਫੀ ਸਹਿਮਤੀ ਲੱਗੀ ਤੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਮਾਣ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਬੜਾ ਸੋਹਣਾ ਇਲਾਕਾ ਆ, ਬੜੇ ਵਧੀਆ ਲੋਕੀ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਵਧੀਆ ਢੰਗ ਨਾਲ ਜੋ ਅਸੂਲ ਨੇ, ਜੋ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਹੈਗੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ।
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡਾ ਚਾਂਸ ਲੈ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡਾ ਰਿਸਕ ਲੈ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, ਲੀਡਰਸ਼ਿਪ ਉੱਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੇ ਕੀ ਅਸਰ ਹੋਵੇਗਾ ਇਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਸੋਚਿਆ?
ਮੇਰੇ ਲਈ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਮੇਰੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਰਿਸਕ, ਮੈਂ ਸੋਚਦਾ ਕਿ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਲਈ ਜੋ ਆਪਾਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਕਿਹੜੀ ਮੰਗ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਲੋਕ ਉਡੀਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦੇ। ਆਪਾਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਲਈ ਇੱਥੇ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ 'ਚ ਖੜੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਲੜਾਂਗੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਿੱਤਾਂਗੇ ਵੀ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ। That's kind of fun. I get to show I can speak 3 languages there. In case you're wondering, I can speak Punjabi, French, and English. Yes.
Hey, Michael with National Observer.
Hey.
Assuming that you get elected, do you have a plan to do something about the pipeline?
Yeah, we've made it clear. My position is clear. We should not be spending public dollars on a pipeline like that. We should be investing in clean energy jobs. Made it very clear.
Do you have a platform for that, or is that just your statement at the moment?
Our position is very clear. We should not be spending our dollars that way. We have so many other priorities. We can create jobs and we can create opportunities in a much more effective way that's long-lasting, that's sustainable, and that's our commitment.
I have to try to videotape this, so
Hi.
give me strength. Hi, I'm Marcella from News 1130, and
Hey.
just wanted to ask you, what is your commitment to the voters of Burnaby South? Because a lot of people think you've been parachuted in here in what's considered a safe riding. So what are the issues in this riding in particular that you plan to fight for?
Well, I've touched on some of them. I think some of the major issues that people are faced with in Burnaby is housing. Housing is a massive issue. People can't afford to live in the neighborhoods they've grown up in. People can't find places to live. They can't find places to buy. We've got to do something about the housing affordability crisis. And really what we've seen is the provincial government has stepped up. They've made a commitment. We've seen the municipal government have conversations about stepping up with some changes to zoning bylaws. But the federal government has been absent. And we're in this position right now because of 10 years of conservative inaction. The current Liberal government's proposing to do something in 2 years. People can't afford to wait. We need action now, and that's what I'm committed to doing on housing. And then on healthcare. Thank you. And then on healthcare, a massive issue. People are talking about healthcare wherever I go in Burnaby. Healthcare is a massive issue. We've got long wait times. We have a hospital that needs to be updated. We need to build a new hospital. And these are major issues. And we know that the current Liberal government has actually passed massive cuts to healthcare funding. And I've talked about that. They've passed cuts which will result in $36 billion cuts across Canada over the next 10 years. That's what their plan is. That's what they've done. And we know that healthcare is a massive issue, and we've got to invest in healthcare, not cut from healthcare. So these are some of the issues that we'll push on.
Just a quick follow-up. Do you believe that the voters in this riding support not buying Kinder Morgan's pipeline?
I think the people of this riding believe that we could do a lot better with billions of public dollars, that we should be investing that in a sector that will be long-lasting, in a sector that will create jobs for the future, and that will protect our environment, that will defend our environment. That's what the people of this riding believe in. I'm absolutely confident.
You talk about healthcare, the pipeline, housing in Burnaby. What's one thing that you don't really understand about Burnaby and that you need to learn about the people here?
Well, I think that's something that's going to be ongoing. One of the things that I was really struck by, which is really unique when we talk about cities, I've gone and done roundtables at different cities and asked, what do people care about? And one of the issues that really struck me as unique is that people were really passionate about their parks in Burnaby. They care about the fact that there's such a deep connection to the environment with the ravines and water that flows into the Fraser. That has never come up when I've done a roundtable meeting before. I've never heard that many people so concerned about their parklands and the environment in that really direct way. That's something I'm looking forward to learning more about.
Whenever you're asked about the pipeline right now, you keep talking about not using public dollars to build the pipeline, but are you flat out against the pipeline if it weren't to be public dollars?
Yeah, I was against, I've indicated my opposition to this during my leadership, so that's months and months ago, and I reaffirmed it as I became leader.
Just three quick questions. The pipeline, you're not in support of investing in the pipeline. is your policy that the pipeline investment should be sold? Like you're saying you don't want to put money in it, that's fine, but the government will have bought the pipeline presumably in coming months. Are you saying it should be sold off or what?
Well, I'm saying that that's not an effective use of our public dollars. And so the starting point is I'm saying that we should not make that investment. And we should immediately do whatever we can to ensure that we're using our public dollars for something that's long-term, that's sustainable, something that invests in green energy, in clean energy jobs. That's where we should be putting our resources.
And any thoughts or views on the dem-evictions that have been underway in Burnaby, especially around the Metrotown Mall area?
Well, when I talked about in the beginning of my talk, I think it's so important that we acknowledge that having a place to call home is just a basic thing that we all need. It's the basic building block of a society is that people have a place to call home. And when you don't have a place to call home, that can be something that's incredibly stressful, frustrating, and we've got to make sure that people have the housing that they need. But we've got to look at why we're here. We're in this position today because we've had a BC Liberal government that's done nothing on affordable housing and not made those investments over so many years, far too many years. We've had a federal government that's not made those investments. When there was a Conservative government, over those 10 years, no investments. And now with the current Liberal government, they're investing, well, they're talking about it in 2 years from now. So we're in this position because of the inaction of different levels of government, and we've got to be committed to doing it. Now we have a federal government that's, again, not really doing anything, a provincial government that is ready, and a city that's talking about the right steps. We've got to step out as a federal government. We're saying it's not warm enough up here. We're just going to make sure we answer all the media folks' questions real quick, and then we're going to come down and I'll have a chat with everybody.
Jagmeet, wish you all the best for your this announcement.
Thank you.
But why the party can't decide on choosing a local leader? They chose you.
Well, I made the choice. I said that I want to do this after having spoken with lots of people. I met with lots of people in the riding that really encouraged me, and they said we'd love for you to represent this riding. Thank you. And more importantly, I believe that we need to put pressure on the government to get the things that people need. We've talked about the issues, whether it's housing, healthcare, electoral reform, the environment. This government hasn't done what people need. And we know that another Liberal is not going to do it. Conservatives is certainly not going to do what's in the interest of everyday people. And it's New Democrats that care about the issues that impact people and are determined to make people's lives better. And that's why I've made that decision. Thank you.
It's Ted Schnecky from Global News. You're talking about pharmacare and the hospital in Burnaby and things like that, but last time I checked, I think we're spending something like 57 cents of every tax dollar on healthcare in this province. Where would you find the money? How would you specifically go about getting these things implemented when we're already spending 57 cents out of every dollar on healthcare?
It's a great question. Well, that's why I specifically talked about pharmacare. Pharmacare, we've heard from the parliamentary budget officer who actually investigated the program and found that it would be a net savings of $4.2 billion annually. What's happening now is, because we don't have pharmacare, people can go to the hospital, get treated, but then when they're discharged from the hospital, they don't actually have access to medication. They get more and more sick, and as an illness progresses, it becomes more and more costly to treat. So there's actually a massive cost savings. It's not only the right moral thing to do, it's the right economic thing to do. It makes sense financially. It'll actually save us money, and that's why I believe in it.
Clarify, you will move your family to Burnaby if you win, or just you will have a place here?
Me and my wifey, we're coming together. I should ask, you're okay with that, right?
Heck yeah. If you don't win, will you continue to be NDP leader without a seat?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, that's it. Thanks so much, everybody. I'm going to come down and chat with everybody. You guys some questions. We had some questions. Thanks, everybody, for being here. This was awesome. Look at this crowd. This looked beautiful. Wow, thank you. Thank you to our incredible BC NDP team. Yes. Thank you to our MPs extraordinaires. Merci beaucoup à tout le monde. Merci. Au revoir.